You got your makeup done and everything.
No, 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 no. It's just natural, natural.
Oh, natural. All right. Let's go ahead. Let's get started then.
Okay.
All right. So, Mom, this is going to be your second time now on the podcast.
Yes, and I'm
Hold on.
hoping this will be a better one.
Better. First of all, a lot of people appreciated the first one, but yeah, you said you wanted to prepare yourself a little bit better because you said you have your ADHD, HDD.
Well, in a DDD, yeah.
Right.
But this is more not really, and this one
Uh-huh.
is a lot more serious than the other one. The other one was just sharing my life, right,
Right.
as a joke. But this one is really important, I feel.
Mhm.
So
Yeah. So let's
yeah.
go in. So you wanted to do another episode with me. Why specifically?
Okay, so as you know, I'm a number one follower of you, and so I was listening to one of your interviews, and was Harrison was it
Yeah.
episode was Harrison was Freeman was I listened to that interview. As a matter of fact, I decided to get in to do the interview as soon as I listened to him, like halfway. I didn't even finish his interview, right? Like,
Yeah.
oh my God, this is impressive. That's exactly what I'm interested in.
Yeah.
And so I was really, first
So
of all, I was
for those that
impressed.
don't know, Harrison Finnerman was 2 episodes ago, I believe, and
Yes.
he was my friend that I met in Oxnard, and he wanted to share a story about his substance abuse
Mhm,
issues
mhm.
that he's been dealing with.
Yes, yes. Thanks. And so, yeah, I was really impressed that he was able to share,
Hmm.
himself in public. But I was also impressed with the way you interviewed him.
Hmm.
You were really gentle and you were listening to him,
Hmm.
right? You were not judging.
Yeah.
And so I think because of that, he was able to open up. And so it was really impressive.
Well,
That's one of the
not
things.
to. I will say though, you were a person that I always tell people that my dad was someone that gave me a lot of like mental willpower, strength. But you're always like you've always taught me to be a compassionate person. That's always something
Oh,
you've ingrained in me from an early age.
I'm really glad you were able to, take that from me. You could have
Yeah.
taken so many crazy things from me. Anyways, so look, I was interested in that interview and I was impressed, but I'm also in, when I don't know, even when I was growing up, and I know I'm going to talk about my background a little bit,
Yeah.
but addiction is it's not so much addiction, but like human mind. Like
Hmm.
I would even when I was growing up, I remember when people do things, the first question I have is what's going on in their minds that they did that, right? Instead
Hmm.
of judging, like I want to understand it.
Yeah.
So this field is really, fascinating to me, and that's why I said, yeah, this is it. I want him to, interview me.
Yeah.
So
Um, okay. So first of all, what is your backfield? What is your background in your work field?
okay, so yeah, first of all, as you all know, I'm an immigrant, right? So I came in about 30 or close to 40 now, 40 years ago. And uh, before I came in, the only thing I know about drugs was that people were drinking a lot,
Hmm.
homemade, beer and tequila and honey wine and stuff like that in my country. And I
Hmm.
know some people would die from like car accidents. We don't have that many cars at that time.
Hmm.
And then a little bit of chat, which I will be talking about in more in the
Yeah.
in
Later on.
past.
All right.
Yeah, later on. Yeah, thanks. But the thing is, so my background is like I said, I came from Ethiopia. I one interesting thing about drugs I want to tell you when I was growing up is
Hmm.
uh, so I grew up in Addis Ababa, so that's all I can tell you, and around it, right?
Hmm.
I remember in fourth grade, you know, some girl, I went to an all girls Catholic school, right?
Hmm.
And I remember some kids at break time, they would go out and there's a corner store
Hmm.
and they would start smoking. I was in fourth grade, and I'll never forget it. What my mom told me was like, if you smoke, you'll never go to heaven. And we grew up going to church, right? So I looked at them and I said, well, these girls are not going to heaven.
Right.
What are they doing? But in a way, believe it or not, it helped me because I never tried cigarette then, right?
Yeah.
So that I remember when I was growing up.
So do you know what's so
Um,
funny about that? I
what?
know I know you actually sent me a list so that we could keep it organized today, but that's not how I talk. You know what's so funny about that moment is you remember when we were driving down Fruitvale and we saw Zalalem with one of his friends, my brother, outside of the black and white corner store, right?
Yep.
You flipped out.
Yeah. What is he doing there?
It was did these I mean the two stories relate though.
Yeah.
Because
He
because
was
you
one
know
of them.
Zalalem was a good kid.
Yeah.
He didn't drink or smoke or do anything like that,
Right.
but you saw him outside the corner store with his friend and
What's he doing there?
you stopped the car, you picked him
Yep.
up and you flipped
Yep.
out. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Okay. Until you guys leave my house until 18,
Yeah.
stronghold. Stronghold.
And do you remember when you caught me smoking marijuana? Do you remember the lie that I believed that you told
But
me?
you were grown up then. You were
Right.
really grown up then. You
I
were
know.
like in college. Wasn't you in college?
It was I was my the year before I was gonna go to college, or maybe one of the summers I'd come back from college.
Was I smart or what?
No, I was an idiot.
No,
you
yeah.
I you know I remember because my dad always being strict and you were always the nice the nice one.
Yeah.
I thought that I would tell my dad first and get in trouble
Yeah.
and then tell you after. Um, but what happened was I went to a friend's party. The party
Right.
ended up
Yep.
getting shut
It's
down
okay.
because I think
Yeah.
someone's parents or the cops came or something like that. I can't fully remember, but it was it was one of the first time I'd smoked marijuana, and my friend's parent was very strict. And you said,
Yep.
"Hey, Oxum, I just I want to give you a chance to be honest with me because Nani
Sorry.
has
Don't
oh,
don't
she's
don't say
fine."
name. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
said because my friend has cameras in the house, and
Yep.
before I see
Over and
anything
over
in the
I told
camera, I
you.
want you to tell me the truth. And I believed it. Even my dad told me I was an idiot for believing you.
I have this thing like honestly, it's just when it's emergency or when it when the situation gets tough,
Yeah.
I get really smart and I'm
Yeah.
like, okay,
Oh,
I'm gonna
okay.
find out.
So you're fight or flight, and you're very
I don't fly.
you got
That's
fight.
why yeah.
And
Yeah,
then
but
just
I
and then
remember.
one more thing about that is I remember again not thinking you would freak out. I thought my dad would freak out. My dad was actually very calm about it, understanding that I was a kid going through life. You
Yeah,
were like, "Don't you ever do drugs?"
yeah,
You said you do.
yeah.
You said you wait until you're 70 years old and then you can do all the drugs, shoot
Oh my
everything up
God,
all
how
at
do you
once.
remember that?
Because what you were my parent. I remember the things you tell me.
Listen, I got to tell you something, a story about that, about 70.
Huh?
My students, I work mostly with addicts, right?
Okay.
And Miss E, they call it Miss E or Miss Aster. Miss
Yeah.
E, do you use drugs? No, I don't use drugs. Because I have a reason, and I'll tell you why. I'll tell
Mhm.
them, I don't want to use drugs. One of the good reason I give them is I am someone who want to be in control of my life.
Right.
Okay. I know the easiest way of being out of control is under the influence, right? When
Mhm.
you're under the influence. So because of that, I'll tell them, you'll never get me to use drugs and be addicted. This is the key, right? Which will go into the addiction. When I say that, they say, "Oh, Miss Hassan, if you tried, you'll be you. I bet you if you've tried it, So I tell them, okay, I promise when I turn 80,
Yeah.
give it to me. That's what I tell them. Yeah, you're right. You remember that. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
I'm sorry I got you off track. So,
No, no, you did not.
so one more time. What is your job? What has been your job, and how long have you done it for?
Okay, so since 1987, I was the first 10 years, 87 to 97, I
Mm-hmm.
was working in a methadone clinic. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So methadone clinic is like a medication that we give people to help them with their withdrawal from opioids, right? When they use heroin or heroin-like disease, if you give them methadone medication, and they have some new medications now. If you give it to them,
Mm-hmm.
the idea is they will not get sick from the withdrawal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if they don't get sick from the withdrawal, they can go to work, they just come to the clinic, get their dosing, and they go home. They don't
Yeah.
have to deal on the streets, deal with dealers. And that was the whole idea. And then also the whole idea was once they're on it, they will be into counseling, and then eventually they will win off of methadone. So
Mm,
that was what I was doing the first 10 years. And then after that, I became a teacher. I started adult education, and I started teaching in the jail, in Santa Rita jail first for 5 years. This was in Oakland, in Alameda County.
mm,
5 years I worked there. And then I transferred to the parole offices again as a teacher, right? And so we would teach, it was mostly like life skills, um, relapse prevention,
mm.
addiction education. So I've been teaching that, and I still teach that. I stopped only for 1 year because I decided to take a break. But then, I'm still doing it. So I came back to work, and so yeah, that's my work history.
Okay.
Um,
And so before we get into why you actually got into that, another story, and I'll stop doing all these little mini stories, but I remember growing up, probably third or fourth grade, take your kid to school day. And, all the other kids I went to school with, a lot of them had, mothers and dads that were doctors and lawyers, obviously because I went to a really affluent middle school, elementary school.
yep.
And I remember I told you about take your kid to school day, and you were like, "No, go to school. You're just trying to get out of school." And
Yeah.
and
Remember, I'm an immigrant. I
I
didn't
know,
know the story here in this country, so I don't know the
I
culture.
know. So
I
I
have to
went
be
to school, and
questioning everything.
I know. So I went to school, and I was one of the only kids that was at school. And I think
Huh?
for whatever reason, I guess you felt bad, so you decided to come back and pick me up because you found out you
I can bring you.
yeah, you could bring me to your job. And
Hmm.
let me tell you, that wasn't take your kid to school day because you took me to one of the prisons. I can't remember which
Yep.
one. That was
Yep.
basically just a scared straight. You took me to jail with you, and they would move us from like cell to cell. You could
As
see,
a group,
they
right?
had
Group
all the
kids.
yeah, they had all the
Yes.
prisoners on the other side of the wall, like scream, just like that show, Scared Straight.
Yes, we
And
did that.
they gave us these bag lunches, these ham sandwiches. It was in a brown bag. I remember I remember everybody else the next day at school talking about, oh, I went to the doctor's office. I went to see my mom at the lawyer. I was in jail. It was like me and like 17 other bad kids just moving from cell to cell. I remember just with
Yep.
patients and stuff.
Yep. 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 But you know what? Listen, I honestly believe, always, I still believe that teachers are as good as doctors, are even better than doctors, because as a teacher, we
Yeah.
create doctors,
Yeah.
right? So honestly, I want you to feel proud, feel proud about
Yeah.
your mom's
Oh,
work.
of course. Of course I do.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah. And
another thing I remember you used to share all the time about your job was how stressful it was when you would share about it, when you would tell me about stuff. What was, because you said it was discouraging. What did you mean by that when you were stressed out and discouraged?
okay. So my job is like really, I feel like in between. On one side, the corrections, right? Corrections field, the guards, the parole agents, the parole officers. Most of them, they're changing now, but most of them were like, yeah, you're on their side. You're on the side of criminals, and we're teachers, right?
Mm,
And you're just wasting our tax money. So what I
mm,
have to do is I have to be in between, not to be discouraged by them, and then at the same time deal with angry students, and minorities, and who've been drugged out,
mhm,
a lot of problems. So I'm in between always. So I
mhm.
have to make sure that I was always walking on a thin,
Thin
I don't
line.
know whatever you call it. Yeah, because I want to make sure that I want to work with these guys, but then I want to make sure I want to teach,
Mhm,
right? So because of that, it could be really, really, really stressful. But in the heart of in my side, in my heart, I've always believed that the teaching part, I know I'm going to be winning by teaching, right?
mhm,
So that was why it was so stressful.
mhm,
There's some minor things, like I remember in one of the parole offices, one of my students was the supervisor came in with a
mhm,
whole bunch of to do some search because I
mhm,
was suspecting that people were using in my class, right? Well, the supervisor comes in, and and they told them to drop everything and get up. We're going to search the classroom.
Hmm.
Well, one guy, I think he has some crack cocaine in his. He would not let go of his backpack. He would
Right.
not let it go. At that time, it was the supervisor pulled a gun right there and then. He said, let it go in the classroom.
Right.
And I'm like, I feel like protecting the students, but then I feel like get him. So you're always in between when you do this job. You're always in between.
Right.
So that was a crazy time. That was stressful.
Okay.
And then the other stress is actually
Hmm.
every day I walk into that jail, especially when I was young in Santa Rita, right? Every
Hmm.
day I walk in that jail, the deputies would say, we don't care if they kidnap you. We don't care. If they hurt you, we don't care. We have no contract to protect you. But guess what? The students will never, ever touch me. Will never. As a matter of fact, there was one deputy. Do you want me to continue with that?
Please.
There's one deputy. It was kind of harsh on them.
Yeah.
And then the students saw that he was not respecting me. Like he would interrupt my class and stuff like that.
Yeah.
In one of their break time, one of them threw a tea on him, like his cup of tea on the deputy. Why? Because they're disrespecting my teacher.
Wow.
So the teacher, it's amazing. The deputies think like, their attitudes, I can't wait to get that, something's going to happen and we're going to stop the teaching. No, those guys know that at the end, because when they are in there, they're sober, right?
Hmm.
They're not high. They're regretting.
Hmm.
They're thinking about their family. So they're the best.
Yeah.
They're good captive audiences to teach in jail. So that's another story too. So they're on my side always. Yeah. So I feel that's
Um, and you also said I remember you talked about the frustration about seeing the repeats.
relapsing people.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Again, you don't cure addiction. You don't cure poverty by locking them up, by incarcerating people, right? So what happens is people use drugs, they throw them in jail, no education, no rehab, no counseling, no therapy. Boom, you got to get out. Time is up. He goes out. Guess what that addict is going to be doing? The things that he knows how to do. Use drugs, right? Because nothing else has changed in his life, right? So in and out, in and out, in and out. It's just it's really frustrating. Yeah, that's why it's relapse. And I will be, I will be talking about, when we talk about the drugs, I will
Yeah.
also be talking about why people keep on repeating using. Okay. So
Okay. So let's talk about addiction. What is it? And then let's get to treatment issues.
Okay, so addiction is just so complicated. First of all, it's a disease. I'm not talking about using, right? So I'm talking about addiction. It's a
Hmm.
disease of the mind,
Hmm.
right? It's a disease of your body. By the time you're addicted, your body is also been affected. Your
Hmm.
body is wanting to the chemical so that they can, it can survive on it, just be normal, right? So body, and then also because of that, your spirits, or people call it your mind, but it's just your thoughts, your spirits,
Hmm.
it crushes you. So all three of them, okay, gets crushed. And
Hmm.
addiction also, it's almost, that's why addiction, they say, I don't know if you know about 12 steps. When you go to 12 steps, one of the things they say is addiction is like doing something again and again and again, and wanting the
A
same
different
result,
result.
right?
Okay. Yeah. Or a different result.
Wanting a different result. Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you. Wanting a different. So like you do it again and again. Can't you stop? Do something else. No, because you're addicted. You can't control it anymore,
Hmm.
right? So it's like I said, it's a mind. It gets it's a biologically it affects you, mentally it affects you, and spiritually. The other thing is it's once you are addicted,
Hmm.
it's an ongoing problem. It will
Hmm.
never ever go away unless you stop. And
Hmm.
even when you stop, it stays there. But there's always a chance that you will relapse. Now, before I say that, I want people to understand the differences between abuse
Mhm.
and dependence, right?
Okay.
Abusing drugs is like you're doing too much, right?
Mhm.
But when you're depending, when you're addicted to it, it means your body is looking for it now. It's like your medicine. You need your
Mhm.
medicine. So you can't control it anymore, right? Or it's going to be difficult for you to control.
Yeah.
What happens is, okay, for example, as an experimentation, a kid starts experimenting, right? So um, maybe me and you start experimenting high, and all of a sudden maybe you have abuse in your childhood, or you have mentally, there's something biologically when you're born, there's something wrong with you, right? Before
Mhm.
you don't even know what it was. So therefore, as soon as you start drinking, wait a minute, every problem went away and you don't
Mhm.
even know it. Guess
Mhm.
what you're doing? You medicate the problem, right?
Mhm.
Because you medicate it, you keep on liking that medicine.
Mhm.
Me personally, because I don't have that issue, I may have other issues because it didn't cover for me. I don't
Yeah.
like it anymore. I stopped using,
Right.
right?
Right.
So, but the other person who's depending, who's like, hey, what's wrong with you? Well, guess what? Your body, our nature says, and I'm trying to use a layman
Layman's
language, right?
terms. Yeah.
Yeah. So your body says, even though I'm curing you with the medicine, with the drug, with the alcohol, guess what? Your body is saying, no, it's not. This is not natural. It's something you're putting in me, right?
Mhm.
So I don't give you that feeling anymore. So what do you think the drug addict does, or the person who's using does when it says, I don't feel it anymore?
They go for stronger stuff.
They go for higher, more
Mhm.
dose. That's called tolerance.
Mhm.
Your tolerance level goes higher and higher because of our body, right? Goes
Mhm.
higher. And that's how people get addicted.
Mm.
Now, it goes higher and higher and higher. It's abuse. And then by the time it gets dependent, when you're dependent on it,
Mhm.
the chemical
Mhm.
changes the brain structure, okay, and the brain functioning, right? So like it's now your nature is changing. And
Mhm.
when the way I explain this in my classroom is like, when you have a muscle, right? How did you get your muscle? Because you work hard, you give it vitamins, and all of a sudden, when you stop working out, what happens to the muscle?
It goes away.
It goes away, it
Mhm.
shrinks.
Mhm.
That's exactly what happens to the brain. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Like your natural brain.
Right.
Now, so when you stop using drugs, it's like, oh, I don't know how to be strong anymore because I never exercise my
Right.
neurons and my little cells and stuff like that, right? Because
Yeah.
the drug was helping me. Okay. Now, one other thing I want you to know is I want people to know is just because you're using something doesn't mean you're an addict,
Mhm.
right? If you're an addict, it means there's always some underlying issue.
Mhm.
Like I was just telling you, the underlying issue usually makes a person
Mhm.
continue to use. And that's why people keep on using again and again because, okay, well, guess what? When I drink or when I use drug or coke or whatever, I don't
Yeah.
have any anxiety, right?
Right. Right.
But guess what? The anxiety never goes anywhere. It's
Yeah.
still there. You
And
never dealt with it the right way.
what about some treatment? Because obviously you worked at the methadone clinic you talked about, and that's probably not a practice that they would rely on today as heavily as they used to, right? So
Oh, by the
what's your
way,
feelings on the treatment, huh?
okay, yeah. So there are different kinds of treatments, right?
Yeah.
However, there's also different kinds of people. Each of us are different. Our makeup
Okay.
is different.
Yeah.
So what works for one may
Yeah.
not work for another.
Right.
By the way, as much as people are against methadone,
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you one thing. I have seen people who were homeless, women, for example,
Mm-hmm.
lost their kids, didn't have them because of CPS, Child Protective Services have taken them because of a bit. Now we put them on methadone, they start thinking right. They're able to get their kids back. They're
Mm-hmm.
able to get jobs.
Right.
What's wrong with the methadone clinic is
Mm-hmm.
the counseling part is not emphasized,
Mm-hmm.
or like they have like really they don't pay enough for the counseling part,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why people end up you can't just anyways. that's one of the things about methadone. However, there are different kinds of treatments, right?
Yeah.
They have um, let's see, the 12 steps, yeah,
Right.
or group counseling,
Mm-hmm.
individual counseling, family counseling, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Medication treatments such as that methadone or some other, like for, and that's important too, by the way. Like if I have depression, right? If
Mm-hmm.
deep, and I started drinking, and I'm not depressed anymore. When I
Mm-hmm.
stop drinking, like as I tell either I need some kind of psychiatric help,
Yeah.
right? Or I'm gonna want to go out and use, because that's how I know how to use, right?
Right. Right.
So again, let me just I want to emphasize two major facts. Is one, everybody, just because you use doesn't mean you're an addict, right?
Yeah.
That's one. And the other thing is not everybody if you're addicted, there's most probably 99.9% of the case that you have some kind of underlying issues,
Mm.
such as childhood abuse, child abuse, neglect,
Right.
so mental illness or
Right.
stuff like that.
And then you also wanted me to bring up before we jump up across the water. You wanted me to discuss about the black and brown issues in the prison system,
Yes,
dealing
yes.
with drugs and alcohol.
Yes, and I want to I just got a latest statistics. That's a 2020 statistics of drug facts.
Yeah.
85% of prisoners in the United States
Mm-hmm.
are in prison or jail. 85%, imagine, because they are either actively using, or has a history of using, or dealing, or selling, something to do with drugs.
Yeah, that's so crazy.
Imagine, absolutely. Imagine, hold on, I'm sorry. And we all know what percentage wise
Mm-hmm.
of African Americans and Hispanics, or black and brown people,
Mm-hmm.
are in jail, disproportionately higher than it should be.
Mm-hmm.
Even though, for example, that we have only 13% of African Americans, I think I'm not 100% sure, 13% of, but in the jail, they're like 30%. That shouldn't be. It should be 13%, right? To be fair.
Yeah. Right.
So why? Because honestly speaking, if my family is educated, if they can afford it, they could figure out, if I have a problem, if I was going in a good school, when I act out, when I start using drugs, probably I'll be sent to counseling, therapy, right?
Yeah.
Medication, or whatever. And the other thing will happen is when I go to jail, if I go to jail, guess what? If I'm from an affluent family, if my family can afford it, or if I have, if I'm like usually Caucasian or something, if they're,
Mm-hmm.
I'll be bailed out.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You bailed out and you don't go to jail. Guess
Yeah.
what? People who are stuck in jail. So I see that, and it really upsets me, because more
Mm-hmm.
and more and more and more people, more black and brown people, because of lack of money, lack of education, lack of help, support. Also, honestly speaking, I do believe that also our prison system is left over from our slavery
Mm-hmm.
period. So it's a fact, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, and my African American kid or teenager who is so upset that his great grandparents were hanging from the tree, right?
Yeah. Right.
He doesn't know how to deal with it, so he's going to be angry. He's going to be destroying. He's going to be, because nobody taught him, or nobody apologized to him. We're
Yeah.
sorry. We're
Right.
sorry that we enslaved you. Nobody said that. I'm still waiting for that.
Right.
I'm still
Right.
waiting. So
Right.
because of that, they don't know how to deal with it. So they're going to be stuck. And when is it going to stop? That's why I'm
Yeah.
frustrated. It goes
Right.
on and on and on. So
How does an immigrant get involved in this industry at all? I mean, what drew you to working in this field?
I remember I told you, when I was growing up, I was always like inquisitive of what's going on
Mm-hmm.
with people's mind, for them to,
Right.
like, that's
Yeah.
the number one reason. So it's a mind issue, right? I had my master's degree in clinical psychology, and I that was my first job, was counseling people, and I'm looking at them. It's like, what's going on with their mind, right? So I
Yeah.
start. That's one of the reasons why I'm interested. I really encourage a lot of my friends to uh, be teachers and counselors and therapists.
Hmm.
So that, immigrant or not, I think it's a good field.
Hmm.
Um,
You just mentioned your
it needs
master's.
to be done, Aksum.
Yeah.
It's something that needs to be done.
So you mentioned your master's also, and there's one more accolade. You actually were Star Teacher of the Year in Northern California or all of California.
Or in my school district, I was Contra Costa County Office of Education's.
Yeah.
Yes, I was 1 year teacher of the year.
Okay. So describe
Because,
what goes into that and what you got that award for.
well, again, I got that award because what happens is you get nominated first. You get nominated, and then the county office and the superintendent comes and observes what you do in the classroom and
Mm,
talks to your students. And they say Miss Aster is the great one.
yeah.
So
So you got to meet Jerry Brown for all that?
So now, okay, with this thing,
Yeah.
with my field, I go to meetings, conferences. I even presented once, since I started working at the Contra Costa jail,
Yeah.
Contra Costa County Office of Education. I did some kind of presentation through the Corrections Education Association,
Okay.
and that's when I met Jerry Brown. He's cool. He's really good. I honestly don't think that our new
Whoa,
governor.
hold on. We're not doing that. We're
Okay,
not gonna
so
we're not
okay.
gonna get you in trouble. All right.
Listen,
So let's educate folks on something that they may not know, right? Because they may have heard some of the facts. Some people may have heard some of the facts about drugs and alcohol here in America, but let's give them a new flavor. So Ethiopia. I'm sure this is an area that people have very little information about. What is drugs and alcohol like? You described a little bit of it, but growing up, I know you've described this thing called chat to me that I've
yes,
I've always kind of wanted to try only because of everything I've heard about it. What
you
is
better just chat about it. There's no.
No, mom, I'm the comedian. You are
No,
the mother.
I know.
Let me do the jokes. All right. So,
Actually, but
uh,
listen, before I go to there, can I please go back to there is such a thing as a sleeping tiger. I want to tell you
a
what the
sleeping
people.
tiger.
Yes,
All right.
because you asked me earlier, why is it that people keep on just doing it again and using again and again? Why are they relapsing, right?
Right.
I want to say something about that. Okay, once you get addicted, okay, once you get the dependency, drug dependent, once you get dependent, if your body gets dependent,
Mm-hmm.
you at the same time, when you do that, it means you're creating a tiger in you.
Mm,
Okay, now pay attention. So what happens is when you stop using drugs and when you are in recovery, right? When you're in recovery, it means you stop using drugs, you exercise, you take care of yourself,
mm,
you heal, right?
mm,
While you're healing, guess what happens to that tiger that you created as an addiction?
mm.
Because you don't use drugs anymore.
Right.
What happened to the drug?
I don't. He he goes to sleep.
He goes to sleep,
Yeah.
right? He's sleeping. He's not bothering me because I'm exercising. I'm eating right. I don't use drugs. I have all these friends and positivity and what, right?
Right.
Therapy and whatnot. The moment I decide, let's say that, hey, my friend, or I tell myself, right? My ego tells me, you can use a little bit, you can drink a little bit. You're strong now. You're exercising.
Yeah.
When I drink, this is coffee, by the way, right?
Yeah.
As soon as I drink, guess what happens? It wakes up the sleeping tiger.
Uh-huh.
The sleeping tiger, while he was sleeping,
Mm-hmm.
because I was feeding myself the right way, he was getting fatter and fatter and fatter. And this time, when the sleeping tiger wakes up,
Yeah.
okay, it destroys the whole body. That's
Mm.
why a lot of times when people stay clean and sober for a long time and then use, they end up killing themselves because it's
Wow.
so bad. It's suicide. Mentally, it gets very depressing, and it's different. You became ashamed of yourself.
Yeah.
Here we go again. You start putting yourself down,
Yeah.
all the way to overdose. So remember that the sleeping tiger story that's the story. I don't know if it makes sense to you, but I was like, wow,
Yeah. No, thank you for breaking that down.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. So going back to Ethiopia, right? What was your
Hmm.
question about? So
Well, what is the drug scene like? I mean, do they smoke marijuana there? Are
yes,
there,
good
heroin,
question.
and what is the drug scene like?
So good question. Remember, I left about 40 years ago, right?
Hmm.
When I was leaving, a couple of things I remember is there was homemade beer, one or two beer factories. Beer was common. A
Hmm.
little bit of liquor because of the Italian thing. Homemade tequila, but it was
Hmm.
like at home. People were
Hmm.
using it at home. Now I know, even though I was not an expert then, people were not talking about it. People were dying from alcoholism. People were dying not from, they won't call it alcoholism, but car accident or
Hmm.
being violent, fighting because of you're under the influence or
Hmm.
liver problem. All those things were killing people, right?
Hmm.
I know a lot of people were smoking. Not kids that much because it was expensive. Remember,
Hmm.
40 years ago, we were really, really, we couldn't afford it. So, and then the other thing, oh my God, the one thing that when I was leaving the country, young people, like homeless people, young
Hmm.
kids who were begging on the street, you've seen them, right?
Hmm.
They used to start snorting, was it inhaling
Hmm.
benzene?
Hmm.
What they'll do is they go to a car, open like with the cars, like it's amazing.
Hmm.
The smoke, right, of the benzene of the truck.
Yeah.
They put the cloth there, and they get
Are
to.
you serious?
I'm absolutely serious. The reason I know this, I know I used my cousin, bless his heart, he passed away now. My
Hmm.
cousin who was growing up with us left because he got teenager and he didn't like to be, and he was on the street for a while. He
Hmm.
told me that was what we were doing,
Hmm.
so I
Hmm.
believe him.
Yeah.
But you see sometimes kids are with like eyes buzzed on the street. Can I have money? Can I have? That's why they do
Hmm.
that, the benzene. So and that was what I was happy. Now, chats,
Hmm.
the big deal chat. When I was leaving, first of all, it was used, it was legal. It was
Yeah.
there was
Describe
one
describe describe what chat is. Like,
chat,
what does it look like? Yeah.
okay. First of all, chat is like it has leaves. It's like a tree, right?
Okay.
And people take the leaves
Hmm.
and put it together and they chew it. Now
Hmm.
in Addis when I was growing, we were kids, right?
Hmm.
I mean, in the city, they were putting sugar in it. They wrap the little leaves with
Hmm.
sugar and they chew it. They chew it, they chew it, they keep it here, right?
Hmm.
Like this, right? And the liquid that comes out
Hmm.
throughout the day, people
Hmm.
take that.
Hmm.
Okay. It has, by the way, I don't know, in this country, I just found out that they call it Abyssinian tea.
Oh, really? Okay. Ethiopian
Careful
tea.
if they give Abyssinian tea.
Yeah.
African salad.
You looked it up.
I swear.
You looked it up on. That's definitely an Urban Dictionary. You looked it up. All right.
So in Ethiopia, where I grew up, the pronunciation is chat. You know
Yeah.
how the ch, the chat.
Yeah.
Um, it's so it has to be fresh to be taken.
Hmm.
It has the same chemical as amphetamine, right? The speed.
Yeah.
That's the kind of. So let's before I go there, let's go back to what. So in one town in
Hmm.
Harar, next to Somalia,
Hmm.
uh, people were using it.
Hmm.
They were mostly Muslims. It's a culture. So that was okay. And then in Ethiopia, in Addis,
Hmm.
when I was growing up, people who, there were one or two universities at that time, right? People would come from all over the countryside and go to one university.
Hmm.
And the kids who came from that area
Hmm.
would start chewing, but it was illegal. When I was growing up, it was illegal. So in the colleges, they would try, hide
Try to
it.
hide it. Yeah.
They would hide it, and they were using it then. But then that's 40 years ago.
Hmm.
Guess what? I came back here. Now I'm researching.
Hmm.
First of all, I remember the first time I went back, chat was only used in a little bit in Harar, in another town.
Yeah.
In Mercado area where there, you've seen
Yeah.
Mercado, right? It's a
Right.
big market, and
Big
there
marketplace. Yeah.
merchants come in, and there's a huge mosque there, and
Yeah.
people are used to it there, okay,
Yeah.
because it's culturally, it's accepted for their religious purposes. But when I came back, the Bole Road was full of chat. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Bole used to be like a cleanest area, like you could not afford to stay in Bole. But when I came back, it was all over.
Buller Road's
Apparently,
like Santana Row.
yeah, it used to
Okay.
before I left. It's nice now.
Yeah.
But so all of a sudden chat all over. And I want to tell you, so it has the methamphetamine chemical makes you, in the short term, you can't sleep, it makes you hyper, you can't eat, but then in the long term, it will give you a heart problem. You could be psychotic. It could be like you could give you
Schizophrenia.
schizophrenia kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
That's meth. Chat is exactly like that.
Yeah.
Exactly. It has that chemical.
So it's still illegal today.
It's legal in Ethiopia.
It's legal in Ethiopia now.
Yes, and it's illegal. It's illegal in the United States.
Okay.
It's a controlled substance.
Okay.
I want to share with you what one of the dealers, a big old dealer, said. If you don't mind, about chat. Do we have time? Do we have time?
Yeah.
Okay. So it says, chat is a thriving business in Ethiopia. It's actually, unfortunately, it's the biggest chat. Ethiopia is the biggest exporter of chat in the world. So it grows so much. It has replaced recently I found out that it has replaced the coffee. Coffee was our number one export to get foreign. Now chat is our number one export.
No way.
People don't want to plant anything else because the money is so much. This is what he said. The dealer said an estimated of $80 million, which is 71 million pounds, are said to change hands in the market each night. One night, they sell. I'll tell you why it's at night. That amount of money is in Ethiopia.
Right.
$80 million, right? In one night. Now, why is it in the evening, by the way? They're doing it in the evening because it has only 48 hours live because it's leaves, right? From the time it's harvested to wrapped, to be mailed, to go into, all over the world.
Yeah.
It's got to be done in 24 hours. So people are, the dealer, Mr. Abi or something, not Abi. Sorry, I said Abi.
No, not Abi.
No, I swear it's not his name, but it doesn't matter about his name. But he said sometimes when it's the chat harvest, he stays in his office for 30 days without moving. People bring me he said, my family bring me food because I'm there cutting it, wrapping it, selling it. It's that bad.
Wow.
Because 24, he said not only 24 hours, but 30 days for a month I stay in the house.
So let's say I went to the Gorage store and to go buy some chat. How much would it cost me? And would I buy a bundle? Or how much would it cost?
You buy a bundle, right?
Do you know how much it would cost?
Right now, I don't know because, let me, the example, when I left Ethiopia, we used to buy Doro, a chicken for 5 birr. Now it's 1,000 birr. So imagine. Okay.
1,000 birr. That's almost, it's 1 to 20 right now, the ratio?
1 to 40.
Okay. So you said 10,000 birr. That's $500 for a chicken?
No. It's 1,000.
Oh,
so
1,000. Excuse me. $50
from 5 birr.
Yeah.
To 1,000 birr.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's still so imagine chat, especially now that they're getting we exported to Djibouti and Somaliland.
Yeah.
And all over the Arab countries, right? This is what he's saying. The dealer say, hey, you know what? It's never gonna stop because I give the government each night, he said, up to $1,500 taxes Every night I give it to them for the whole year.
Oh my gosh! Of course, the government
Yes,
want to stop that.
it's really bad.
Yeah.
It's really, really bad. I hope somebody listens to me. I hope the government is paying attention to this, because not only mentally for the students,
Hmm.
eventually it destroys everything about them,
Yeah.
but also people are going to stop making coffee and building. Planting.
Yeah.
So it's
The
a
actual infrastructure is going to deteriorate because of
yes,
all the focus on this jot that they're making
yes.
a quick buck on right now.
A quick buck, and a lot of people are employed with it,
Right. Right.
sadly.
Wow.
Now, I hate to say this, but I heard that I cannot say names, but I heard that even the previous party, which
Hmm.
is no longer a winning, lost party
Hmm.
in Ethiopia, the the wife and the leaders,
Hmm.
they are big merchants. They're like, that's why they're billionaires, because of that.
Yeah.
So it's going to be, I know there's election coming in Ethiopia
Yeah.
somewhere in a couple months or so, but after that, people say we need to change the constitution, but hopefully people will be thinking about, the government will be, and experts will be thinking about this drug, because
Yeah.
it's really, really dangerous,
So
And,
let's come back to America.
okay.
We're getting to the end here. You know, obviously, certain stances on drugs have changed in the United States. They've legalized marijuana. They've legalized magic mushrooms in Oakland. They've legalized all drugs in Oregon. Um, what's your feeling on the legalization of some of these drugs?
Oh, mine is a little, it's radical actually. I tend, and I know if, people might be offended, but I tend to want to legalize everything.
Hmm.
I want to legalize everything because if you think about it, like maybe age wise, like, maybe 21 or so, after
Hmm.
21 it should be legal, because for example, look, there's an alcoholic, right? Alcohol is legal, right? Alcohol
Hmm.
is 100% legal. Over, if you're going to be over 21, it's legal for you, right? Now, whoever is going to be addicted to
Hmm.
alcoholic, is going to be alcoholic, right?
Yeah.
But everybody is not alcoholic, is it?
Mm-mm.
Why? I mean,
Mm.
if legalizing it will make it, it's not going to make everybody use drugs. As
Right.
a matter of fact, I think if it's legal, it will put the dealers out of business.
Right.
And again, if a dealer listens to this, they're not going to be happy with me, but that's what's going to happen. It's
Right.
going to be sold, it's going to be managed, it's going to be DEA or FDA is going to know about it,
Right.
and the government's going to get taxes. And I have a feeling the price is going to be lower too.
Mm.
Uh, and so whoever is going to be using is
Hmm.
going to be using whether you legalize it or not.
Right.
So why not make it open and decriminalize it, so that people will not go to jail, to prison,
Hmm.
especially black and brown people.
Yeah.
Like I said again, why?
Right.
They would not be going to jail because of that,
Mm.
and the money, maybe the money we get, the taxes, put it
Mm.
on education,
Yeah.
put it on social services.
Right.
Yeah, so that's my attitude, really.
Um,
So
if I, I have to ask, you don't have to answer if you don't want to, but obviously you've worked around and within prisons and around a lot of cops, and obviously with the light being shed this year or 2020, so the previous year on police brutality. I mean, it's something that you've always talked to me about, but obviously more than ever, this year was a hot topic. What were your feelings towards a lot what was going on this year in terms of police and policing
Mhm.
civilians?
Well, it's really interesting. It's
And you don't have to answer if you don't want to, because I know you
No,
still
no,
work.
I want
Yeah.
to answer. This
Okay.
is really important. This is important for me. Um, from the beating of what's his name? It started with the one in Los Angeles first, a long time ago.
All right. Rodney King.
Rodney.
Yeah.
Remember they beat Rodney? You were a kid then.
Yeah.
That that being seen to what happened now with George Floyd, I see a big difference.
Hmm.
The difference is now people couldn't take it anymore. Well, I'm
Hmm.
talking about Caucasians, our friends, our black, brown, they could not take it anymore. So that way there's a progress, right?
Hmm.
Because then there was a nobody got out. Yes, we did something, but it was different. It was only the African Americans and the brown people were the ones who were fighting in Los Angeles, whereas here, the whole country. So that way it's good.
Hmm.
But I'm not surprised.
Hmm.
Um, I'm not surprised. There are a lot of things I've seen people shoved and beaten just
Hmm.
because you looked at them in prison, in jail. Once you're in prison, jail. So I'm not surprised that will happen.
Hmm.
My fear is that, now all of a sudden is being ignored, I think.
Mm.
And people should wake up.
People
People
are
should
going
be
back to being complacent again.
complacent.
Yeah.
Yes. You
That was my biggest fear about
the
everything
complacent,
that was
right?
taking place, right? Yeah, all the activism that was going on.
Yes.
I felt like people were trying to cram for a test and take the test tomorrow, and that's not the situation. Situation is, it's not a thing where we're just going to get it right tomorrow and then everything's fixed. It's an ongoing issue. Is my feeling.
Ongoing. People need to continue to do it. I will tell you one thing too. Also, I do believe we do need the police.
Hmm.
But when they say we need like community police also, right?
Hmm.
They have to be aware. Like I could give you yesterday in my town in Oakland.
Hmm.
They had the kids draw donuts the whole night.
Yeah.
Ooh, we were just in my neighborhood. I was listening, this is what I say. Why don't they call the police? Guess what? They will not call the police. You know why?
Huh.
There's no police officers staying in Oakland. They come from somewhere else.
Yeah.
Do you understand? It's
Yeah.
not their neighborhood.
Yeah.
So we need police officers from our neighborhood,
Hmm.
right? So that they know they're from what people.
Yeah.
And so otherwise we do need the police, and
Yeah.
we don't need that much money. I mean, you should see some of the money of the trucks they're driving in prison guards. They have huge trucks budgeted for them. No, they don't. They're not going to war. They have a Volkswagen back and
Yeah.
forth. So the money should be. We need the jails. We don't need that much jail, but we need like a program. We need
Yeah.
police, but more money needs to be put for education and other social services. That's
And
basically it.
I have one more question for you
Yes.
because we're approaching an hour. So, and this is going to be a difficult one too. So you can take your time with it if you need. But if Aster Tadesse was president of the United States tomorrow, you have all your every resource at your disposal. You can snap your finger, and you're going to fix um, the drug and addiction problem, and policing and jailing. What would you do?
I have looked at, first of all, I've studied the jail system, prison systems in Europe,
Hmm.
and Germany, Sweden. What they do is their jails are like
Hmm.
universities. It's a
Hmm.
dorm. It's
Hmm.
where people rehabilitate.
Hmm.
Okay, so I will automatically change that. They have, believe it or not, they have one or two deputies for the whole prison system, because they're not there to discipline people. They're
Hmm.
there to teach people. So I
Hmm.
will change the system completely. Stop right now. No more prison like before. Let's
Yeah.
make it a rehab place.
Yeah.
I'll do that.
Yeah.
Now, granted, there's some sick people who did heinous crime. They need to be put, even they need to be put in their own clothes. They
Hmm.
don't need to wear, like, be embarrassed and,
Hmm.
so I'll change that system, number one.
Hmm.
Number two, the police officers are going to be social workers.
Hmm.
No more high school graduate just because you drop out and you become police. No,
Yeah.
I need educated social workers.
Yeah.
Um, so I would change that.
Yeah.
That's the two biggest thing that needs to be changed in this country, I believe.
Mm.
And continue, uh, people need to be aware. Education system has to change. There has to be equity in education. It's not fair for, like, one school to have all educated parents with money and everything, send him to the obviously that kid is going to be better
Yeah.
than the kid in the ghetto who
Better
doesn't
off.
have
Yeah, that
any
kid will be better
computers.
off. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so they need equal opportunity for the children, so that
Hmm.
when they grow up, they have equal chance. So I'll do the education part. I'll change the education part, and other than that, America include as many immigrants as possible. I'll open up the door.
Are you going to do the opposite? You gonna open up all the
Oh,
borders?
I will open up the borders. There's nothing wrong. America was created with a bunch of prisoners. I
Yeah.
mean, a bunch of immigrants from Europe
Yeah.
took over other people's lives. So I'm going to say, yeah, you might say, somebody might say, hey, you're not from America. Well, I tell him, you are not from America either. You just came to America a little bit
Earlier.
earlier than me.
Okay, okay, Mom. Thank
We're
you.
gonna put this on YouTube. This
You
is gonna
know I'm
be
gonna put
crazy.
this on YouTube. All right, Mom. I thank you so much for dropping all this knowledge on me, and also, again, thank you so much for raising me the way that you did. You and my dad are complete opposites, and I think that made me a good balanced person. And I appreciate everything that you guys have ingrained in me from childhood. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. You're welcome. And we are so proud of you, Axel. We're proud of you, proud of I have two
I
great
got it
sons.
on
I
recording.
just want to
Let's
say that.
go.
Yeah.
Zalalem actually just called me. I should call him back
Okay.
right now. Let's
You
actually
should
let's
call
we
him on
can.
call him with the other one, with the group thing.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Let's call him on the group. All right.
Yeah.
All
Okay.
right,
All
Mom.
right. All right. Thank you.
All right. Good job. Bye.